control, right? Like, however this is actually something I really consciously practiced at, because like when I went to university, and again, I was clearly at the bottom of the social hierarchy, it's very easy to become resentful when that happens. Like, you see guys that you don't think are as good as you, because we all think, we're morally superior. That's kind of the fallback of the loser man is, but I'm morally better, right? It's like, well, you're just weak.
All right, guys, Dimitri here from LGFG Fashion House. Very interesting business we're going to dive into today. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, we were just talking before this how no internet, no word of mouth. You guys are very old school.
Well, we have like the website and all the social proof that goes with it. But traditional retailers have stores and online retailers sell online. But there's actually a gap in the market between those two, right? Meaning that particularly for like an affluent audience, wealthy people pay to have their time needs solved. They want things fast and they want things convenient, right? And so the store sort of makes that inconvenient. So the internet came along and was like, hey, if you shop online, you can solve the convenience issue because it comes to your house.
Yeah.
But luxury brands struggle tremendously with online selling. Like, for example, Nordstrom's tried to do very high-end suits online. They would get one-time purchases, but no repeat buyers. Because something comes, doesn't fit exactly right. It needs extra service. Then you have to drive to the shop or to the alteration place. So people didn't want to go through that process. And brands like Burberry, same thing, invested a tremendous amount of money to sell clothing online. But again, at that level, when you're spending that much money, you want the personal service. So we're a direct sales company. Our tailors come to our clients in their homes and offices around the world.
And it's clearly working. You got some high-end clientele. I was on the website. Yep. Ozzy Osbourne, Tommy Fury, Jordan Peterson, Eddie Hall, Greg Doucette.
Yeah, that's how we met, was through Greg, right?
Right.
I'll tell you a funny Greg story. That's a little bit of an aside. So I'm a huge boxing fan, and me and Greg and some other friends, we were heading over to Saudi Arabia to watch the first fight between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. And we're on the flight from Dubai to Riyadh, and Greg starts feeling kind of sick. And by the way, Greg can't go outside. Like, everybody just approaches him there, gets autographs, the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So we're on the plane. He's feeling kind of sick. So he ends up going to the hospital when we land, and it turns out he had a collapsed lung.
Damn.
But the fight's that night. Like, we got to go to the fight that night. And Greg's like, there's no way I'm missing that. He's just like a machine. He's like, I'm not missing this fight. So he like hands some doctor at the hospital a whole bunch of cash to bring like antibiotics and all sorts of monitoring equipment with him. and we're sitting on we got floor seats. So it's like a good place to sit.
Yeah.
And like, he's got his doctor there, like pumping him with drugs just so he can make it through the fight on a collapsed lung. He made it through. He showed up.
That sounds insane.
Yeah.
Collapsed lung is one of the most painful things I heard.
He was not feeling very good. He was a little uncomfortable.
Wow. Shout out to him.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone has a pain tolerance, that doesn't surprise me that it's him.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, how do you become a professional bodybuilder? You probably have to go through a lot of like, physical discomfort. And he's like a world-class athlete, right? So
yeah. How'd you first get acquainted with him?
So funny story, totally randomly. A lot of the celebrities that I got to meet and work with are just like connections through our business. We have, tens of thousands of clients. So
damn.
I met Greg through my friend Chad. So shout out to Chad. He's a crazy awesome partner litigator in Canada. Who's like
one of those.
He's a super great litigator, and he's become a good friend. And he's been buying from our company for like a decade. And he was like, just one time we were chatting, and he's just like randomly said, I'm really good friends with this Greg guy. I didn't know who Greg was. But we had already been doing suits for Eddie Hall and Brian Shaw and Ronnie Coleman and Phil Heath. And so or Mr. Anatoly, the guy that goes to the gym and lifts those.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So we're making suits for him as well. And we actually ran into him at that fight with Greg, which was pretty funny. So I didn't know who Greg was, but like, obviously I saw he was all the same circles.
Yeah.
And when I contacted him, like, we got connected. He was at the time he was a judge on the Arnold Classic. And Martin Ford, who's another client of mine, was going to that. So I was like, we just ended up showing up, meeting, and we've been friends ever since.
I love that.
Yeah.
How easily can you spot if someone's wearing a cheap suit?
Oh, super easily. Of
Really?
course. Yeah. Well, look, I mean, that's a little bit of a cheat question because I'm in the business.
Yeah. For me personally, I can't notice. Like, what are the things that I guess give it away?
Yeah. But if you look at a Japanese or a Korean guy, you know which one's which.
Yeah. Sometimes.
You should know, if I'm in the business of suits, I should know like a suit, right? Yeah, definitely. The thing about it is like, yes, you can get cheap suits, expensive suits. Like, I'm not here to hug suits. It's more so, who does notice, and this is going to sound super cheesy, but it's true. Who does notice are women. Like, women have a different sense, not only for clothing, but just like status in general. And so it's very difficult to fake status in that environment because they're naturally wired to discern.
Right.
So unless you're a psychopath, you're not going to be able to like out status the position that you're really in. So there is some leverage in having something maybe subtly more expensive, not for the sake of standing out that way.
Shout out to today's sponsor, Notion. Are you spending more time managing your emails than actually running your business? Or worse, have you missed something important because it got lost in the chaos of your inbox? Email hasn't evolved in decades and it shows, but now Notion Mail is changing the game. It's the inbox that links you so you can spend more time building, not emailing. Notion Mail uses AI that learns what matters to you. It can organize your inbox, label messages, draft replies, and even schedule meetings. No manual sorting is needed. If you need to stay focused, you could customize your inbox view by topic, urgency, or sender, whatever keeps you on track. You could fly through repetitive replies with one-click snippets like intros, follow-ups, or thank you notes, even with attachments and scheduling links. Already a Notion user, Notion Mail integrates directly with your docs using them for context, so everything works together in one place. Get Notion Mail for free right now at notion.com/DSH. That's all lowercase, notion.com/DSH. Again, that's notion.com/DSH. Try the inbox that thinks like you.
But there definitely is a subtle cue that would be picked up by people you might be interested in, let's say, attracting.
I also think, just on a personal note, like, it helps with my confidence when I'm wearing some nice watches or like a nice suit. Like, it just helps me be more confident too.
Yeah, I think it's a masculine thing. What do you think?
I think so, yeah, because you put in the work to acquire this item.
That's exactly right. Like, it's funny. I was just we're in Vegas, right? And I've never gambled in my life. Like, I've never. And my friend was here, and he's a billionaire actually, so it's a pretty interesting guy. And he'll go and he'll play cards and stuff. And he goes, "Why don't you gamble?" I'm like, "I feel weird about winning money." And I would never touch like a Ferrari or a Lambo until I could afford to just get one. Like, it just felt weird to me doing something I didn't deserve. And so you're right. Unless somebody gifted you a Rolex, well, if you could already afford one at that point, but if your dad gave it to you and you're showing it off, that's just kind of douchey.
It doesn't feel the same.
But if you've earned it, like, that's not bragging if you've done it.
Yeah, it hits different. Yeah, fashion's very important. I'm realizing it now, especially with.
How so?
Well, I'm going to a lot of high-end events now. And, I grew up wearing sweatpants and shorts and cheap shirts.
Me too.
Yeah, so that's how I grew up. But now when I go to these events, people notice what you're wearing, man.
Do you find that people treat you differently?
100%. Especially with the watch. And I would say probably for suits too at these, because I'm going to a lot of political events now.
Yeah.
But
I'm interested in what kind of political events you're doing.
Well, I was out during the election, during the inauguration, I mean.
Okay.
So I'm going to like balls.
I had a lot of people wear my suit. So Rob Schneider was there in my suit.
Yeah. Peterson, right?
Peterson was there. His son-in-law was wearing my suit. I had Michael Franzese was podcasting that with PBT and with Patrick Bet-David, and Franzese was wearing my suit. So I had a lot of people around that crowd. I think God Sod was there wearing one of my jackets. So there was Douglas Murray was there wearing my suit. It was quite a. Piers Morgan took my suit to that.
Really?
Too. Yeah, I was with Piers 3 days before the inauguration.
Wow. Yeah, that guy's wearing a suit every day.
No, sorry, I misspoke. He did not show up. He was going to go there because I made him a suit featuring Trump. It was like a funny way to for them, because they're friends,
Yeah.
And actually, Piers couldn't go because there was some visa thing where he needed to renew his passport, so he actually physically couldn't go, but he was supposed to be there in my suit.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw on your site 80% of your revenue comes from repeat customers.
That's correct. Yeah. So
that's
very
really
well. This is actually very interesting, and a lot of psychology there that I found very interesting. Men are really loyal consumers, right? And this is going back to even relationship dynamics. I'm sure you've had relationship experts that have pointed out better than I could that it's women that leave relationships 70% of the time. So men are super loyal. So for example, when my wife is let's get sushi, she's thinking about eating sushi. I'm thinking about the restaurant we're going to because that's the place I go. So, men are very loyal to their barber, very loyal to their tailor.
Yep.
So men are surprisingly sticky consumers. They're very loyal. Yeah.
Especially with something like this too, I feel like.
Probably. And it's interesting, right? Because the switching cost isn't crazy high, but men are very loyal to relationships. So, and maybe it's a danger thing, right? It may be that for men, anytime we engage in any relationship, there's probably some underlying, genetic evolutionary aspect of physical danger.
Yeah.
Crossing tribes could be seen as dangerous. So you want to deal with people you trust, right?
I could see that.
So that might be where that comes from.
I really value loyalty too.
Me too. Yeah.
A lot. Your word is very important to me.
Yeah. That's integrity. And that's Aristotle, right? That's, what is it? Character may almost be called the most effective means of persuasion.
Yeah.
And character is just integrity repeated over and over and over. What that means is basically that your reputation is the most important thing you have. And when young guys join our company, most of the people we hire are kind of starting out their career. They're developing themselves as salespeople and business people. One of the key pieces of advice I tell guys is, and this again, Might sound a little cheesy, but it's true. The best networking thing that's ever happened to me was turning 40.
Really?
Yes, because I have long-standing relationships with people that didn't start out super successful, but are very successful now. And they trust me. So it's very easy to access money when you're 40 if you've been living a life of integrity.
Yeah, I can relate to that because people are like, why did your podcast take off so fast? But they didn't see the work I did before because the show's 2 years old, but I was building relationships for 10 years.
Yeah.
You know
it's
what I mean?
still super fast. 10 years is usually the horizon I look at. I'm like, you got to look at life in 10-year chunks. But like keeping your word fundamentally, and you know, the reason that people trust you when you keep your word to them, I think derives from the fact that it means you probably keep your word to yourself. And it's like yourself that you let down more than anybody else you let down or anybody that lets you down. It's yourself. Like it's your deal with yourself, right? So I was driving the desert yesterday. I called my best friend. He's a CFO for a bank. So he's a baller, right? And we were just discussing some leadership principles. Like he's grown his company, I've grown my company, etc. And he said, you know, the difference between an executive level person and an employee is just accountability. And that's true because execution is just accountability because you got to execute things you don't feel like doing. But you said you were going to do them. But the feeling of when you said you were going to do them has passed. But the commitment thing is like you do the thing you said you were going to do long after the initial feeling of when you said you were going to do it has passed.
Yeah.
That's integrity.
Man, I love that because accountability, that's something people struggle with.
Yeah.
I used to, but I see it every day with people.
So what changed?
I was just lying to myself too much, dude. It started piling up. It started piling up in relationships and friendships, all the lies, and people just didn't trust me anymore.
Did you find you woke up one day and you didn't like the person you were?
Not at all.
Yeah, that's a good fear to have in the back of your mind.
So I cut drinking, cut smoking weed, just locked in, did a lot of personal work, changed my environment. That was huge for me. I was in a bad environment.
Yes.
So I did a bunch of little stuff to add it up.
You know, I was just like doing a little bit of reading. The environment thing, obviously, you know, if you are where you are, you know how important your friends are and how people elevate you or drag you down. Of course, but it's actually, I've learned it's at a genetic level. So for example, like your genes don't predetermine who you are. Your genes are creating a predisposition for who you could be. And then different genes will get unlocked in different environments.
Interesting.
Yeah, I learned it from Dawkins, right? He was studying like how a person, like who they're attracted to is determined biologically, like through their ingrained DNA, but it's unlocked through their environment. So a person can go completely opposite based on the environment. So the gene is just the potential.
That's interesting.
And that's the environment argument, right? Like your environment unlocks whatever potential is already in you.
I could see that though, because you hear about these coworkers falling in love, like once they're working together in certain environments, right? But beforehand, they didn't care about each other. So it kind of unlocks. That is interesting. And that's why when you hang out with people that are crushing it, it kind of unlocks certain parts of you, right?
Yes. It's also why people who are crushing it are going to be very protective over whom they're hanging out with. Because you know, like that your energy is the most valuable thing you have. And most people listening to this will hear that, but they won't really know that because there's levels. I make it an intent to hang out with people that are like, as much as I can, further ahead than me. Because I know just being in the presence of their energy unlocks new potential.
100%. I try to do that too. It's super important. You don't want to be at the top of your food chain.
No.
That's how you get stuck, right? You're stagnant. Have you had periods of the company where you felt kind of stuck, stagnant, no growth?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's actually why I came to Vegas, is to work with Hermosi.
Really?
Yeah, because you know I want to see what potential is still available. Like I don't want to. What is it, that line that before you die, you meet the person you could have become?
Right.
Like the moment before you die, you meet the person you could have been. And I want to meet that person and see myself, not somebody I could have been. Like that would be leaving something on the table. And, you know, at some point, you know this too, like you've got successful enough where you're not doing it for the money. It's the points.
Yeah.
The points is like, what am I really capable of? Like, what can I do? You know, where can I go with this? Like, what door have I not opened yet? What door am I capable of opening? And waking up knowing that there's unlocked potential, it gets pretty motivating.
Yeah, I feel like I'm living in a video game right now.
That's what you are.
Yeah.
Did you play video games growing up?
Hell, I still do.
What do you play?
I play Fortnite now, but I used to play everything. Okay,
so I played Red Alert 2. I'm dating myself.
My dad used to play that. I played a little bit.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. That's a good game.
Thank you for
that's a really
mentioning your dad like that. Anyways, I was top 20 in the world.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So I was really playing that. And that's actually one of the reasons I didn't like the person I'd become, is because video games they're really good for learning new systems, and they definitely unlock certain attributes that can help you later. However, the culmination of success in a video game, it doesn't really get you good with girls. It doesn't really, that's true, right?
Yeah,
and that's like, it's actually one of the few skills you can be world-class at and not attract women. Because anything else you're world-class at, like if you're a world-class musician, if you're a world-class well, basketball player, if you're a world-class whatever, women will flock to you, not video games. So when I was in my early 20s, I was like, I'm so good at this one skill, but it's the one skill I could optimize for that doesn't optimize for girls. And when I'm in my early 20s, what do I think about? I think about girls, you know?
Yeah.
So I was top 20 in that game. And then actually what did help me was in the business world is starting to gamify things, you know, and kind of seeing that there's like, if you can unlock the system that's kind of running the system, you can gamify it, right?
Yeah. Gamifying is everything for me because I'm competitive.
Yeah.
So as soon as I could do that, I just work way harder naturally.
Yeah.
You know?
That's where I'm at too.
Yeah. I have a Google document because I want to become the best podcast host of all time. And I have a running Google document. It's 50 pages long. It's everything I learned in order how to do that.
And so your competition is Rogan? Aim high, man. That's good.
Rogan, I guess, right now. He's the GOAT.
Hey, man, aim high. I mean, that's a good
He's been at it the longest.
Sure.
But I personally think there's this guy coming up now that's going to surpass him.
Okay.
Stephen Bartlett.
Yeah, I know who that is. Sure.
Diary of a CEO.
Yeah, sure. He's
that
great.
Dude's a beast.
He's great. Yeah.
He's spending $10 million a year reinvesting in his podcast. I don't see anyone else doing that.
Why aren't you?
I'm not there yet. 2 years in, you know, I'm spending maybe $1 million, but I'll be there. You know, build out the team eventually.
Cool.
Wear some cool suits along the way.
I know a guy.
So you're in 4 different continents.
Yeah.
20 different countries.
Yeah.
Did that scale all at once or walk me through that process?
No, it was so basically a lot of it happened very organically. But so I have a debate with a friend. I have a friend, he's worth about 120 million, which he made in his early 20s. Like hyper successful e-commerce guy. Brilliant guy. And we had this argument. It was like basically the first time I ever met him, which was about 10 or 15 years ago, whether things were pre-planned, like whether what you're living is just predestination, you know, planned for you in advance, or whether you're really controlling your destiny. And I'm like, no, you control your destiny. And he's like, no, your destiny is predetermined. So this, like, you know, as a philosophical friends, you know, having a beer, having a debate, right?
Yeah.
And I think we've come to a happy medium where we say, like, yes, there is a predetermination, but you have to unlock it. Like, you have to do the thing to unlock it. But the older I've gotten, the more I've kind of seen it as it was meant to be, which is a weird thing because everything I've done to the point to get to where I am, there were actions and steps that I took that I didn't know would lead to this. I just kind of walked through invisible doors and hoped for the best. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we went on a little adventure. I started a company out of my apartment. I was really good at sales. I'd sold encyclopedias door to door for 6 years.
That's a hard sell.
So before, you know, as the internet was becoming proliferated through, you know, people's homes, access to information was not quite that easy. And we still had this door to door thing going on. So for 6 years, I knocked on, I don't know, 240,000 doors. So it was very intense, right?
Wow.
But I'd done very well with it. I mean, back then, that's, you know, you can't scale yourself when it's just you. So I was just doing that. And then I took that skill that I had learned from knocking on doors and approaching strangers into something else, which was suits. And one of the things on my list of criteria for the career that I wanted to have was I wanted to sell a product that was not licensed, or that was not needing to have like any kind of licensing to sell it locally, meaning that I didn't want to sell financial services because I couldn't do it internationally. Like if I sold stocks or investments, I was in Canada, I could only do it in like my province. If I sold real estate, I could really only do it in my, you know, geographic vicinity, right? And if I sold insurance, there was like, you need licensing. And I just had this delusion that like, well, if I start a clothing company, of course it'll be international. It was complete delusion, right? Complete delusion. But it came to fruition as, you know, we were hiring salespeople in Canada. My salespeople liked working in the company. They were growing. They were enjoying their careers. And they started getting married. And one guy was like, I'm marrying a chick in Hong Kong. Can I do this in China? I'm like, yeah, you can. So we opened an office in Hong Kong and it became our best office just like that. One guy was like, I want to move to Perth. It's always been my dream to live in Australia. Okay, let's find a way. We opened a company there, you know, moved them there and we started selling there. And so it developed very organically. We never had like a strategy, like, let's go to this country now. It just happened.
Yeah. You didn't force it.
No, we never forced it. It was organic. However, now, of course, as we've scaled and grown as a company, of course, now we have to make those strategic decisions. But as you already know, and as I'm sure very people wiser than me have already said on this podcast, execution's way more important than strategy. And it's way harder to execute than to have like strategies are cheap. You should get to a point where like at least your business is financially sustaining itself and it's profitable until you really think about a grander strategy. At least that's my opinion. And most of the most successful people I know really started with just executing an idea they feel passionate about or they really were really into. And the strategy came after the concept, the proof of concept was real, i.e. the money was coming in.
Agreed. Because a lot of people value ideas and strategies.
But ideas are worthless.
I think so too.
Completely. It's the craziest thing. Like people think it's like, again, I'm going to go back to like when I was in my early 20s, we all know a guy that knows everything about picking up women, but he can never pick up a woman. And it's like, what's the use?
Yeah.
Right. Or like, there's people I know that talk about chess and they know all the moves and all the openings and they suck at chess. I don't know any of that. I'll beat them like, dude, you suck. Like, what the hell? So really, like, you have to hit the ground running and let reality hit you in the face.
Yeah. So how did you go from PC gaming nerd to this confident man right here?
Well, I think a big part of it was I didn't like the person I'd become. I was sitting and I remember like I had early admission into university. So we had like terms in Canada, first, second, third in high school. My first term, I had good enough grades that the university that I was applying to sent me a letter saying you have unconditional acceptance. And so the next 6 months, I didn't really need to do that much schoolwork. And my grades reflected that because I think that university very quickly regretted letting me in. And the reason that happened is I was up till like 4 or 5 in the morning waiting for the Koreans to get online, because if you want to get a good upgrade in your score online, you got to play the best players. And at that time, and probably still true today, a lot of the best players were in Korea.
Yeah.
So, I was up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, like as an 18-year-old, I looked disheveled. I didn't communicate with anyone because I was just locked in a room gaming. Like, it's like really like something you have to do all the time to get that good at it. And when I went to school and I observed like the social scene around me, and I didn't really, I certainly wasn't at the top of that food chain or anywhere near that. The guys that were like on the rowing team were doing pretty well there because they had optimized for something that gave them social proof and status.
Right.
The guys that were playing like basketball, they had social proof and status. Like and I was looking at that going like, man, whatever it is that attracted me to do it at the highest level I could do it wasn't optimizing for the future of my life. And so I really wanted to improve my communication skills. I wanted to become more socially intelligent. I was studying business and computer science, which again was like in that sort of realm of nerd locked away in the corner. I didn't want to be that guy. And I think, when you have enough of a motivation and an urge and a pull and a desire, and you think about it enough, the universe starts presenting solutions, and you have to be brave enough to take those solutions. Somebody approached me to sell encyclopedias door to door, which sounds insane, but that was the solution. It got me an opportunity to build my communication skills, to build my discipline in an area outside of just sitting in my room and mentally masturbating. Because when you're playing a video game, you are just releasing dopamine. That's what makes it so addictive, right?
Non-stop, yeah.
Sales rejection doesn't release quite the same level of dopamine, but I needed to modulate for that. So it was like a decision that like I want to be different and I want to change my life, and that gave me a start. And then taught me a little bit about audacity, about taking risks, and sometimes just walking through a door for an adventure and to see what happens with that adventure.
Did getting good at sales help your confidence?
Of course, it gave me control over my environment.
Yeah,
right. Like, that's exactly what it did. Like, people ask like, how do you know all these people? How do you dress all these clients? It's like, well, that's just sales. And what is sales? It's communication. And well, fundamentally, underneath all that communication and persuasion, there has to be character and there has to be integrity. Doing what you say you're going to do. Like, yeah, if you work hard enough, you'll get lucky and you'll meet Ozzy Osbourne and you'll make him a suit. But to do that and then to dress his friend from Metallica and then his other friend that's this guy and this movie star. Like, I'm going to Cannes Film Festival next week with like an A-list actor that I've been dressing. And that's because I've kept my promises, right? So I don't want to oversell the idea of being, to have that attraction strategy. That's one of it. Make sure the integrity behind it is also going to hold up, because if it doesn't, then you're going to hit that limit, right?
Yeah. I like what you said about luck, because a lot of people see a billionaire and they're like, that guy got lucky.
So that shows a low locus of control, right? Like, however this is actually something I really consciously practiced at, because like when I went to university, and again, I was clearly at the bottom of the social hierarchy. It's very easy to become resentful when that happens. Like, you see guys that you don't think are as good as you, because we all think, we're morally superior. That's kind of the fallback of the loser man is, but I'm morally better, right? It's like, well, you're just weak. But seeing guys that are better, and then it's very hard not to become jealous or resentful of that, right?
100%. I used to be like that too.
Yeah. So I remember very consciously, I found some books about how to overcome that emotion, because I realized that jealousy is one of the most incredibly destructive emotions. I didn't want to have that emotion at all. And one of the things was like, you take a person that you perceive yourself to be jealous of, and you just imagine them getting everything you want in life. Like, imagine him getting the girl that you want. Imagine him getting the car that you want. And so just like really intentionally iterating away that feeling.
Interesting.
I did not want to feel that, because I didn't like that feeling. And I understood that it leads to a destructive self. And so when I would see guys that are like very like jacked and ripped, guys like Greg, I wasn't looking at him like, oh, that guy's a meathead, he's an idiot. I would look at him and go like, man, that guy must put so much work in the gym. That's admirable. What an admirable quality that person has. So I really, really intentionally, mentally conditioned myself to adore and to respect people that were ahead of me, because it gave me then opportunity to learn from them rather than to shut them out for being somehow less.
Yeah. It's almost like you're reframing your subconscious mind.
Well, that's exactly what it was. And there are some great books about that. And I really took that seriously. Like I was reading a lot of books on psychology on my own time because I wanted to learn the secrets. And Tony Robbins talks about that all the time. And so, you know, he was kind of big at the time. I was reading a little bit of that and I was like, cool, man. Like there's a better choice than to be resentful, bitter, and angry.
Yeah. Also, Joe Dispenza, you suit him.
Well,
too, right?
I know Joe. Yeah, sure. He is such a cool guy, man. Yeah.
I mean, that was probably the most inspirational story I've ever heard. To go from being paralyzed to now look at what he's doing. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. His house is amazing. And it's one of the most serene environments. I have a funny story about that. Actually, we were, me and my video guy, we were filming with Joe Dispenza. And then the same day we had to drive down to like Newport to film with AJ McLean of the Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
So it's like one of the craziest days.
Nuts.
Because you're with Joe Dispenza and then you're with the Backstreet Boy. And it's just like what world are we living in?
I grew up listening to that Backstreet Boys.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So AJ's hilarious. And then as we're driving, Konstantin Kissin from Trigonometry texts me and I'm like, I'm going to see a Backstreet Boy, right? And then he makes like a super funny joke. And then me and my video guy get on the camera as we're driving. We start singing Backstreet Boys song. And then that night, I can't even make this up. This was crazy. This is law of attraction just working, right? That night, I got a text message from a person I'd never met before that was a friend of somebody that I knew, like a wrestler and like one of the top whatever. And the lady that texted me, she's like, hey, I heard you do the suit thing. I checked you out. I have a couple of people coming to this poker tournament. Can you show up and sponsor it? And we had that night in LA. And I'm like, she told me it was a Gene Simmons house from Kiss.
Wow.
And I'm like, this could be fake, but let's go. And we showed up. And everybody's like, oh yeah, you guys, and they knew us because I had done suits for Alice Cooper, who was not Ozzy Osbourne. They're different people. For your younger audience, that's important to know. The reason we got Ozzy Osbourne in our suits is because a lot of our Alice Cooper videos on TikTok, guys were like, whoa, Ozzy Osbourne. It's like, no, it's a different guy. And then eventually like, why don't I just get Ozzy too? But a lot of people at that event knew us because we had done some suits for Alice Cooper. And so that's how I met AJ, was at Gene Simmons' house at a poker tournament. Actually, we were filming with another guy, and that's how I met AJ at that tournament. So it was all kind of like conflating and coming together.
Wow, what a crazy day.
Yeah,
crazy
I got my timelines a little mixed up, but yeah, it was a different celebrity. I think we were with Zach Wilde from Ozzy's band that night, and with Michael Franzese. Yeah, that's we saw Zach Wilde, Michael Franzese, and then we met AJ that night. Ended up seeing him and delivering him with Joe Dispenza on the same day. It was just insane.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So was your marketing strategy just get this in the right hands?
So this actually came a lot later. I didn't think about marketing strategy. It was more like we had this amazing company that was retailing in 26 countries, but nobody knew about us. And I'm like, how do we solve that problem? And I'm not like, I'm too old for, I mean, this is a self-limiting belief. I'm kind of like, I'm not like Greg, where Greg can just like, he's like 50 and he's just yapping on social, you know?
Yeah. I
kind of come off as like a little bit too paternalistic on social. Like I'm not like 22 and people just make fun of my receding everything, you know? So I'm like, screw that. So I'm not going to be the star of my own show here. So I thought, but how can we make our company known? Well, you get guilt by association. So I'm like, well, so here's the thing. So I was thinking earlier today, like, my first ever client, I was 26 years old in this business. I called him up, complete cold call. He was a partner at a major law firm. I'm 26. I walk into this law firm, which is like 27th floor, overlooking a water, like a seaport where airplanes are landing. And the guy takes me to the window to show me his airplane.
Wow.
That he flies to work every day on his own. And I'm like, if I could do that at 26, like, why can't I be dressing Jordan Peterson? Like, why can't I be dressing Ozzy Osbourne? Like, why not me? Like, I did that already. Like, what's different here? And so that was the pursuit. I was like, I can solve this problem of people not knowing us, even though we were privately a fairly substantive company. But I can solve that problem of people not knowing us if I just apply what I do best, which is sales. Now, if you were to apply that same concept, you would do it through podcasting.
Yeah.
There's lots of doors that get you into that thing, but you have to look, for a lot of guys, it's like, if you're LeBron James, you can meet anybody in the world by playing basketball. Right? That's actually another really cool thing I learned is like, it doesn't matter what you optimize for. If you're in the top like 0.1% of that in the world or top 1%, whatever, you'll meet all the other people top 1% of their industry.
100%. Yeah. I've noticed that as a podcaster now because I have on top 1% people and everyone knows each other. Yeah. Like it's a small world.
Right?
Like you've named all these clients that have been on the show and it's like such a small world.
Who have you had of those guys? I'm just interested.
Greg, you said one other one. I'm blanking out on who it was now, but yeah.
Any of the strong guys, Eddie, or those guys, not so much?
Not yet. Greg was the first kind of, what is he, a bodybuilder? Or?
Yeah.
But those guys are hilarious, dude. They get crazy engagement too on social
Well,
media.
Greg is also like a bona fide genius. He is Walter White from Breaking Bad.
Mm.
Like he was a chemistry teacher. Like he's got his master's degree.
Yeah.
He got busted for doing steroids. Like lost his job as a teacher and then built this whole empire. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What have you noticed hanging out with all these successful guys that have resonated with you?
They just, you know what, they'll walk through a wall if they have to.
Mm.
You know, there are people that get discouraged pretty easily. But these guys are absolutely infallible. Like they're just machines.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was just talking about with a friend actually I met at the Hermosi thing, who he's a high school dropout and runs a massive company in Canada. Super inspirational guy. Dropped out of high school because he needed to support his mother who had been in some pretty serious trouble. And went to sell cars like at like 17 or 18, like just full commission. Like he just got a job and they said, okay, full commission, you can sell cars. Became #1 in Canada in that, and then just grew a business. And it was so inspirational. And we were talking about these aphorisms, like, you know, what is it that makes him who he is and other people like that. And it's always just coming back to the same thing, just absolutely unwilling to quit.
I agree. People go all in. That work ethic. It's hard to teach, right?
There's no plan B. And I don't know for you, when you went and you came out here and you started doing this, like if there was a plan B.
No, I was broke when I came out here. I remember because my credit score was complete shit. I had to put down 6 months rent. That was everything I had at the time.
So that was I've been there.
Yeah. So that 6 months I had to make money or we were going homeless. You know, I was all in.
No plan B.
No, I had to make it work. This was 4 years ago.
So maybe that's it. Maybe it's just no plan. Well, and Greg, again, I'll go back to him because he had no plan B. He got a felony charge for selling roids.
Yeah.
Like, and so he couldn't be a teacher. 11 years high school teacher, couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't do anything professional. He had to start a business. He had no choice.
Yeah.
So no plan B.
Go all in. That's why when I hear this investment advice, spread your money out, I don't really agree with that.
Okay.
I think the best way to make money is invest in yourself.
Well, nobody becomes a millionaire by diversifying. Diversifying this is actually really interesting. I was just talking about the president of my company.
Yeah.
Diversifying is defense. For example, one day you might plan to have children. Fair?
Yeah.
For me, like, even though I went to university, I didn't really fit extremely well with that crowd. What I became really good at was being street smart, knocking on doors, making sales, kind of weaseling my way into places I needed to weasel into and building networks from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good strategy for my children who are growing up in a completely different environment from me. For my children, it's probably better to get like a medical or a legal degree and just, be very well educated, have the base of support, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That's playing defense. So once you have money, diversifying is playing defense. Yeah, you can put some stuff into your Bitcoin, whatever, but you're going to have some S&P, you're going to have some real estate, you're going to have some luxury watches that are going to hold value over time. That's playing defense, but you don't get rich playing defense.
You don't.
And people put that out of order. So I think it's important for people that are listening to understand, again, I'm speaking from I'm not trying to sound sagaciously douchey or whatever. I'm saying that just as I've observed, if you're making money, you need to play offense. But once you have a few $1 million, it's like, well, I probably, unless your goal is just to completely multiply that over and over, you still want to have some defense too, right? So diversification is defense, going all in is offense. And when you're older, going on offense isn't going to work. Like, I'm 42. I can't compete with your energy anymore. I know that because I know how I was at 28.
I can agree with that because even myself at 28 compared to 18, I've lost a step energy-wise.
Yes.
I don't recover like I used to.
So if your audience, if there's guys listening that are younger, like what I would recommend, if I may, and not come off being, unsolicited for advice, is like the younger you are, the more all in you should be going with. Absolutely, like you can start over at 25, at 28, at 29. You can start over at 30. Once you're middle age, it's not really that appealing anymore.
Yeah.
So take risks right now, like right now.
I love it. I love that. How was the Hermosi event? Did it happen yet?
Yeah, it was very cool. It's like one of those smaller ones that are super high priced, but you get it to be in a better room, and so you actually get to. It's, as you've already learned, it's harder to get high level ideas the further you go forward because there are fewer people you can ask and trust.
True.
Everybody gives you advice all the time. The homeless guy will give you all sorts of financial advice and everything else, but you can't trust that advice. So you need to find somebody that's been there and done that to tell you, and you can say, okay, I might not see it that way, but I trust you more because what you've done is more than I have done. Yeah,
I agree. Because I used to ask questions to all sorts of people, but now I'm very particular with what I'm asking and who I'm asking it to. Super particular.
Yeah.
So I know your subconscious picks up on everything.
Well, I tell that to the young guys that we hire in our company, young guys and gals. I'm like, careful you take advice from.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure most of the advice people give you, they don't even have your best interest in mind. They have their own best interest in mind, and they're not trying to screw you. It's just that the way they think is they want to justify their own stupid decisions.
True. Because they have a lot of internal bias that they don't even know about.
Right. Which is keeping them poor.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah. Sounds like you've done a lot of research on mindset and psychology.
Well, I think listen, nothing's an accident in the sense that we talked about, you said earlier, like, oh, there's a rich guy, he got lucky, right? No, he didn't get lucky. Like, he didn't get lucky. Yeah, somebody that hasn't done it thinks he got lucky, but like, we know he didn't get lucky because we know how freaking hard it is to compete for money. Now, it doesn't mean he's a good person. Like, morality and wealth are not necessarily correlated, whatever, but he's optimized something at a level where the market chose to give him the money. And that's saying a lot, right?
Yeah.
So anybody that's like got a certain degree of or pedigree of whatever, let's say it's success, whatever that is, like they figured some shit out, man. And we should probably listen to something they have to say.
Absolutely. What are you most excited about coming up?
Oh, there's so much stuff. Well, I have a family, so that's a big thing.
Love it.
I got 4.
Damn. Yeah, well done.
Yeah. Well, so there's 2 ways you can balance that, right? So I've seen it go both ways. And again, for people that are interested in this psychologically, I don't know if they are, but I'll share. Anyways, I've got friends that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars that are single in their 40s and they're doing the thing you can imagine they're doing. And I've got friends that like are more like me, where we have families. You need balance to your business, and that balance has to come from somewhere, right? And I find that, at least for me, that like filling that balance with family is more long-term productive and constructive than doing the, let's say, Andrew Tate thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I'm not speaking for him. I'm speaking for me. That's me. So I knew I was going to have a lot of something as you grow your business, as you build, as you become more successful. Abundance becomes necessary. So am I going to have a lot of what happens here in Vegas, or am I going to have a lot of kids? I chose kids.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited for that because now my boys are getting a little bit older. I can have conversations with them, and they're still a few years away from more high level stuff, but at least I can plant some seeds, and that's very rewarding.
Yeah.
I can't describe it for anybody that doesn't have kids, but that's something that really excites me. And Cannes Film Festival and hanging out with some really cool people there is exciting.
I'll be there. I'll hit you up.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'll be there.
You. I can't drop names here, but I got some good people.
It's my first time going. I'm doing
Me too.
Oh yeah.
I got a text from a guy that's like really, really big.
I mean, it just worked out because F1 Monaco's the next week.
Yeah.
So I might just stay the whole time. But yeah, I got invited to film podcasts out there.
Okay.
So I'm gonna definitely go. I went to which film festival? The one in Utah.
I might get you off camera.
Oh, thanks.
I might get you a couple of guests that I think will be really awesome.
Dude, film festivals are great for networking because I went to Sundance in Utah. Have you been to that one?
Never. Yeah.
It's just high level people, man.
Okay.
Putting yourself in the right rooms, like it's everything.
It's kind of interesting because I never really thought about going. I get a text that's like, "Hey, I need you there." I'm like, yes.
For you, it's perfect. Everyone's wearing suits at these film ceremonies,
That's it. Yeah. So that's a cool one. And I'm also excited, I'm still pretty passionate about the business I'm in. I'm still really excited about growing it. Like, our goal is to hire 100 more salespeople. We're at a funny constraint in our business. So this is getting into business stuff. Like, it's not client acquisition that's as challenging for us anymore because we have a tremendous amount of social proof. Like, when Jordan Peterson went on Joe Rogan twice and started showing the suit and explaining the company.
10 million views, right?
Oh, 27.
Damn.
And then when we got, and then he went on like Kill Tony and it's like, oh, my crazy taste. Starts talking about like people message us from that. When I was on Trigonometry, people message us from that. So we do get that attention, but we can't service a lot of those people because we don't have a salesperson in that area. Like, I get somebody in, San Francisco. It's like, hey, I want to buy from you guys. Like, okay, I need a person there. We get somebody in Nebraska. I need a person there. We get somebody in New Jersey. I need a person there.
You're all in person.
Yeah, we were face to face. So we develop salespeople, like younger people starting out in their career. We develop them with the training, with the development. Like, it's very, very intensive. It's very, very disciplined, and there's a system behind it. That's how you scale a company, right? But we need to hire more people, and so I'm really excited about hiring more people. Obviously, for the sake of our business, but also to impact people's lives. So to plug it. If there are guys listening to this or gals listening to this, you're looking for that career that's going to take you to the next level. Like, you want to escape the matrix, not do the same thing every day. You're just thinking like, where do I develop? We are a development organization for that.
I love it. We'll put a link below maybe for people to apply or message. Perfect. Anything else you want to close off with, Dimitri?
You tell me.
No, man, that was awesome. We took all sorts of turns and it was cool that we didn't just talk business. But we'll link LGFG below and everything else, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
All right.
Yep. Check them out, guys.